Welcome to the DTC Insider Podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisenthal.
Real quick before we continue with the episode, let me tell you something. If you own or work for a DTC brand and you're not hitting your revenue and profitability goals, you're not alone. Things are getting harder, and what used to work doesn't anymore. That's why it's important to find a business-oriented partner that's focused on improving the levers that will change the game for your business. And believe me, it is possible. At BSR Digital, to give you an example, we have recently helped our clients generate between, listen well, 80 and 700K in extra monthly revenue. If you'd like to explore how we could do the same for you and your business, head on over to bsrdigital.com and book a call with us. Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Brian Rosenthal, your host, and today I'm excited to have Kelly Moffat, co-founder of Kirrin Finch, menswear inspired clothes for women and non-binary folks. Hey, Kelly, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. So I'm excited about this one because we don't typically have a COOs here on the show. We typically interview founders, CMOs. So it's probably refreshing for me and for the audience to discuss things from a different perspective. So I appreciate this, and I think it will be really fun.
Yeah, so I am one of the co-founders, and I do sit as our COO, and operations are my jam, Brian.
Amazing. I look forward to hear more about that. But before doing that, why don't you please introduce yourself, telling the audience more about your background and about the company as well.
Yeah, so my formal education background actually is in education itself. I was working in the New York City public school system for 8 years, and at the time was looking to actually become a principal. My wife, Laura, and I decided, okay, we're going to get married. What are we going to wear in front of all these people that we love and care about? And all of a sudden, it dawned on us that we had to figure out what we were, in fact, going to wear in front of all these humans that we loved. And so neither of us really were drawn to kind of the more traditional dress that you would often present at one of these kind of formal occasions. I grew up literally fighting tooth and nail with my mom about not wanting to wear dresses to school, all the way from kindergarten up till now. And so for us, it was really important to be able to express ourselves authentically through our clothes. And so all of a sudden, after doing some searching, we came across this suiting brand that made custom suits. And so that was kind of after getting that fitting done, there was this aha moment of, wow, this really feels amazing. And so wanting to take that experience and bottle it up and then have other folks be able to experience that as well.
Amazing. That's great. So I know I have prepared a lot of questions for you, but the one that I'm really curious about is the following. What do you think, at least, the number one challenge for COOs of DTC brands is these days?
Oh, I think that the problem is that there's never just one challenge, right? That's the problem. I think that there is still very much a ripple impact that we are seeing from COVID, and I think that customers have kind of felt like that should now be resolved. But there's just seems to be like a change for us, at least within our factories in particular, and how easily they can produce stuff, the speed at which they can do things, and the amount of errors that exist within that chain. And so all of that coupled with the inflation that we're seeing today really has dramatically increased the cost of goods sold, and then ultimately how that impacts our bottom line as a D2C brand.
Right. I remember when we started the podcast back in 2021, COVID was the number one topic. Probably we were talking about it like left and right. But now, do you feel that that still impacts operations to this day? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that it has absolutely had a change just dramatically on how people do business. And so everyone kind of thought, oh, it'll go back to kind of the way it was. And that isn't the reality, right? We are living in a new reality. And so what does that look like today? And so I think for us, often the biggest impact on kind of the like where we see it have the biggest impact is really on the cost that has risen on our products, just from across the board, to the fabric, to how much it costs to make it, to the shipping of it, all of that,
Yeah.
and then the time.
Yeah. And what are you guys doing to mitigate that?
I mean, one of the things that we really focus on is making sure that we have longstanding partnerships with our factories, so that you can say, all right, here's where we have wiggle room, right? You can ship this one out 2 weeks later if you do this here, and that kind of balance that is a juggler for both of us. I think the other model that we have looked into is pre-sale is something that we didn't used to do. And that for us kind of balances the need for making sure that we have the sales window that we need for products, and also making sure that if there is some sort of delay at the factory, we're still able to tell our customers about it, capture that revenue, and then ultimately make sure that they're not going somewhere else to purchase the product.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said that made me remember something that Ronak Shah, the CEO at my Uppy, said during an interview with me a few years ago, is that something about that they give incentives to the suppliers that or
Mm,
to the 3PLs, I don't remember which of them, to negotiate the terms. So they call them not to pay them less, but to pay them more. It sounds counterintuitive, but to pay them more in exchange of better services, better terms, and better things that improve the overall customer experience. So I'll look for that and think if I should add that to the show notes, because I think, or at least link the episode, because I think it was a great take by super experienced CEO.
Yeah, I think that there's this constant balance act of, okay, is it better to save money in this case, or is it better to actually, you know, perhaps like a good example would be, okay, so we have the opportunity, a production run is just completed. Do we want to air the goods or both the goods, right? So it'll cost us about double to air the goods, but it takes about double the amount of time. So like, what is is there a sunk cost here that you're really flirting with constantly and finding the right balance there?
Exactly. So you're trying to be an industry disruptor, aren't you?
Yeah,
So great.
absolutely.
So we
Absolutely.
just wanted to make sure. So what are some of the additional actions, if any, you need to take to educate customers and get your products out there?
One of the reasons why we are a D2C brand and we really don't do many at all at the moment wholesale is because for us it's really imperative that we control the customer experience, because ultimately we're serving a customer base that has had a super frustrating customer experience in a lot of stores, right? For example, they'll walk into the store and say, oh, do you have any jeans? Oh, okay, yep, it's over there. And then maybe they're browsing or whatever, and they'll say, oh, a customer associate will come over and say, no, 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 like the women's section is over there. And our customer will be like, well, yeah, I have eyes, right? I see where I'm looking at. This is what I'm looking for, right? And so making sure that our customer experience is inclusive is, doing things like asking someone's pronouns, right, from a very basic level, right? Understanding that they have different wants and needs than perhaps other folks out in the market. And so for us, that customer experience is something that is so 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 important to get right.
Yeah. And so I will give you a few examples to see if you do any of these and why or why not. And or
Mhm.
if you have thought of that. So with some, 7, 8, and even 9-figure brands I recently interviewed, what they do to educate their customers on the products they sell is long form content. Short content, yes, but long form content. Some of them have grown a YouTube channel to hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But besides how many subscribers they have, it's about the intent of delivering content to educate customers and telling them the why and why they should buy from them, etc. So Are you guys doing anything on that regards, and why or why not?
Yeah, I think that if you are a brand in the space right now that is primarily e-com, there's a missed opportunity if you're not producing long form content. I think that we want our customers consider us an expert, and it's more about also, okay, fine, yeah, we understand their wants and needs, and we are the expert at that, but we also want to create value for our customers, right? So we want them that if it's a parent that just had a trans kid that just came out, we want them to not only shop for a suit for this kid, but we want them to feel included, and we want to be able to provide educational pieces for that human, but also to create an environment where they feel seen for this person that wants that suit. And so we have a Dapper Scout program, where we interview a variety of folks. A good example that we're about to release is someone that is a recent graduate of an astrophysicist's degree. I can hardly even say the degree name. Right. So telling their story of growing up from very humble roots, right? Growing up poor, growing up Black, and like presenting in these spaces, and as a woman, like underserved. And so representation really matters, right? So when someone comes to our website and they see someone that they don't need to look exactly like them, but they see someone that mirrors either the person they want to be or the experiences that they've had throughout their lives, that says something to that person. And so this platform, our Dapper Scouts program, is one way we highlight different people in the community to create more representation for people that have traditionally been underserved, and so that when they come to us, it's not just oh, we want your money. No, we want you to feel included in this part of the community, and you are a part of that.
So I have the understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that you have grown exponentially in the last 18 months or so, and that you hired some people, you went from being 5 to 16 or something like that. Is that correct? So first off, congrats. And second,
Thank you.
how did this affect, I don't know, company culture, operations, and everything else in the company?
Yeah, I think that anytime you have either a dramatic increase or a dramatic reduction in size, plays a big role on every part of it, right? So as you said, right, we were a team of five about 18 months ago or so, and we really intentionally grew. We took a year to say, okay, we're now going to go from kind of one person doing like kind of one person on our marketing team, right? One person on our production team, that kind of stuff. And saying, okay, we are going to invest in these kind of infrastructure to build out 2 and 3 person teams, right? And to kind of really build out that hierarchy of an org chart. And so that has very much fallen under, my wheelhouse. I think that one of the things that is exciting is, watching that kind of go from that kind of infancy when folks came on, and then 12, 18 months later, now that that kind of core group has been here for that period of time, watching how much we have grown as a company, right? And so really going from, okay, we're doing the thing, yeah, we're making these shirts, and but then really creating SOPs and thinking about how do we communicate cross-functionally, and all of those kind of things that when you lay the foundation of that, that will just exponentially grow as new hires come into the mix.
Right. Yeah, I can see that, expanding the team can be great and helpful at times. And some other times you need to make sure that, everyone shares the company values if you have defined any, and that everyone produces as expected. Because whenever I hired new people, it was like, okay, they are going to take time off my plate or things off my plate. And then in the beginning is they are going to add things in time and put things on my plate. And then after, let's say, a period of time, they will, leave me alone. Let's say, leave me alone.
Yes, it is unrealistic to say, "Oh, I'm going to hire you today, and then tomorrow you're going to be completely independent," right? Because ultimately, if you don't invest the time and energy into that employee, then in 6 months from now, they're actually not going to be independent. They're still going to be knocking down your door and saying, how do I do this? Right. And so I think that that's the biggest thing. I have spent the last, 18 months or so really creating a lot of documents. And one of the exciting things is honestly is also building out as we grow a company culture, right? And what does that look like? And how do we want that to exist? And it's not just me, it's about how are these team members that are investing their time and energy for the success of our company, and what do they want to look at? And so, for example, we have a fireside chat program where we sit down and we've looked at a variety of different issues to talk through everything from kind of sustainability to a lot of our team. Not surprisingly, we serve primarily a queer audience. A lot of our team, not all, but a lot of our team is queer. But like talking. Creating intentional space to have conversations around what are these kind of more challenging aspects to kind of dissect.
Do you record some of those
I
conversations?
sure do. No, that does not feel like that would be in the best interest of an intimate gathering.
No, I would say that like for content, sometimes it's like, of course, with everyone consent, like recording some internal meetings, with an intention, of course.
Mm.
That'll be something very appreciated. Maybe it's a bad idea. As I always say, I probably come up with 1,000 ideas. Probably 999 are bad, but one is a hit, probably. But it's volume.
It's volume. There we go.
Yeah.
You will call you the Brian Lottery.
The Brian what?
The Brian Lottery.
Oh, okay. I've been called worse, so that's okay. That's
Okay,
good.
there you go.
So I was going to ask about those hires. Which
Mhm.
ones are the ones that you said, I wish I had done it sooner? And
Mm.
which roles did you hire for that?
Yeah, I was running our production for many years. And so as I said, came from an education background. I knew nothing about making clothes when I first started. And I think that one of the things for me was I got us to a point where, we were manufacturing in multiple different factories. We have two folks in our overseas that are our point people, one in Italy, one in India. We were for many years manufacturing domestically in New York. We're very lucky to be able to go in and out of the garment district. And that was actually honestly a big learning for me of how I could spend a lot of time doing that kind of what you would do in a classroom. And in that real life, we're going to figure out we've got an unmet need and we're going to solve it. Um, but I think that being able to pass that along, I thought I would really feel like I didn't have a role in the company when I first did that. And I had a lot of anxiety around that, and then realized, oh my God, this is the best thing that I've ever done. I can actually focus on the things that I know and do much better. And so that was an exciting thing, but very much a growth learning opportunity.
Amazing. So now, if you want, I'd love to discuss a little bit on customer acquisition and retention, if you're comfortable with. So, what do you guys do to acquire customers mainly?
Yeah. So I mean, we sit somewhere around a 54% return customer rate, right? So we have a really loyal customer base. And that exists a lot, honestly, just because we're providing something that there aren't a lot of things out in the marketplace for our customer. And, often June comes around, right? And there'll be these big brands and they'll throw a rainbow on a pair of sneakers or a shirt, and our customers are very much in the know, shall we say, right? And so they know that we're showing up for them every single day of the year, 365 days a year, and not just that, those 30. So I think part of it is just honestly making sure that we are true to who we are. And I think that's I got one of the biggest compliments from our photographer the other day, and she was saying, one of the things uh Kirrin Finch is one of the brands that I really enjoy working with the most. And she works for lots of different types of companies and brands. And she's like, you all are doing the thing that you say you're going to do, right? You use models that are real people. You really value size inclusivity. You really value, making sure that the models are diverse. But that also makes it hard, right? Because we are truly using real people. And so, it's not someone that does this day in, day out, but for us, it's a commitment to being inclusive and making sure that we're putting our money and time where our mouth is. We also have a variety of different channels for communication with our customers. We do an annual survey where we get a really, really high return rate customers. They want to speak to us because we truly listen. And that's, I think, one of the failures of a lot of brands, or honestly, like entrepreneurs that are first starting out. They'll be like, "Oh, I have this idea, but I don't want to tell anyone." I'm like, "No, no, no. The worst thing you could do is like not tell folks, right?" They're like, "Someone's gonna steal my idea." I was like, "It is so freaking hard to start a company. Don't worry, no one's stealing your idea. If you want to do it, go do it, right?" One of the other things that we have explored is a few different loyalty programs, and we're actually looking to explore some new ones right now. I think that customers certainly respond to loyalty programs, and that's something that's really special. I think that also because we focus so much on including folks, a lot of people are like, "Oh, oh, I saw, my friend of a friend was like in like a Dapper Scout or modeled for you," or those kind of things. And so, like that part of the being feeling included in that part of it is, I think, also a really big reason why we have high customer retention.
Right. That was amazing. And only from that, I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I know we don't have time for all of them. So I'll prioritize. But first, I wanted to highlight something that stood out with me, that it's, or for me, that it's the fact that the fact that you use, real people and diverse and everything like that. You said that it makes it harder, but I think that's
Hmm.
exactly why nobody else is doing it, because it's
Hmm.
hard. People tend to do the easy stuff. So the fact that it's harder, it's a good thing. And the fact that you can pull it off is even better for you guys. So no wonder why this photographer loves working with you. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And the other is around your rewards program. Could you please explain a little bit more about how it works? Because I've seen or heard a lot of companies succeed and fail with a reward program. So why do you think that you are having a good time with that reward program? What are the key ingredients to make it successful?
Yeah, I think one thing that we did a long time ago was an affiliate program, which was a total failure in the positive and negative world. Um, we don't do a lot of sales, and so like with the affiliate program, basically what would happen is just the link would get leaked, and then people would just kind of really take advantage of it. So I think that that's a good example of what not to do for us, right? I think that, you know, I think, I do know that, that like the pop-up that just exists for that, when you come to our website, that initial first customer 20% off is absolutely something that consistently works, right? And I know as a consumer, that's something that absolutely is just like an easy, low-hanging fruit to grab. And when it comes to the loyalty program, we paused and now we're starting to look at there's kind of two different options for us. And one of the nice things is that I feel like a lot of companies, are expanding their offerings. We use Klaviyo, we use Rise for our gift cards. And so looking at the different offerings that already exist on platforms that we're already paying for, which is a nice bonus, being able to tap into that. So we will circle back in a few months and I'll let you know how the new program's going.
Amazing. Yeah. So you said that this is all about retention, and I wanted to ask you something about that before we talk about quickly about acquisition. So you mentioned, that many companies don't, incorporate customer feedback or something like that. They don't survey customers or something like that. So I wanted to ask you, how do you incorporate customer feedback? And what do you do with that information? And how do you get the customer feedback in the first place?
Yeah, there's kind of three main ways that we get customers feedback. One is just very, very simple, straightforward, using our social media, right? Putting out a post, asking customers to do a quick vote or give feedback on something. And that's something like if we're toying between, maybe two different design ideas on a print, or hey, do you like this length of short versus this length? That's like it feels like a good example of a snap pull, right? Instant, just okay. And also it's really good engagement for customers, right? How do they feel connected to the brand? So that's an easy kind of win on both sides there. Two is we do an annual customer survey that we put out and have done for many, many years now. We do offer a discount code at the end. And as I mentioned, we don't do a whole lot of sales. So that is a good incentive for folks kind of in that like January, February period where a lot of D2C brands are kind of, you have that fatigue of the holidays are over. Okay, we need a little bump. How do we kind of provide this offering at that time where it's also kind of a lull in a lot of other things, so we can really dissect that information. And then we do some longer styled interviews with customers, some of our more tried and true folks, and kind of every year we do kind of these more in-depth conversations with folks about the different kind of big questions that we're looking into. So for example, we were looking at our brand positioning recently and saying like, okay, is this something like, do we need to tweak these kind of certain words that we're using, and as are we still relevant in the way that feels right to our customer base? Words are really nuanced, and making sure that they are still what feels right, especially within the queer community. And so that's kind of the third method that we use as a brand. Obviously the most labor intensive, but often garners the most
Yeah,
in-depth knowledge.
100%. Yeah, I don't know how many times I have mentioned both here on interviews or on LinkedIn or anywhere else on social that founders or companies. I don't know if the founder itself, but many times it is the founder actually calling their customers. Like they should call customers, see, you know, what they like, what they dislike, ask the proper questions to get the answers you're looking for, and not, getting, yeah, I love it. Like, okay, but if you had to improve something, what would you improve, or what would you like to see different? So what other brands you consider? So it's good to have those conversations. It's pretty exciting. Sometimes some brands call a list of customers every single month. Some brands here on the show even told me that and I saw the ads then that they record themselves with the client permission, of course,
Hmm.
while they are in a call with the customers, and they create ads out of that experience. So basically what they are doing is they call the customer, they ask for the permission, and if the customer has a great story to tell about their brand, like a genuine story, they record themselves like with the customer, even without camera, like holding the phone like this, talking with the customer on speaker. And sometimes there are some super fun or funny stories of customers, like legit stories, and those are, according to them, the best performing ads ever. So I think that is not only for private things, but also with their permission, again, for content creation. So that would
Hmm.
be, yeah, it's
All right,
interesting.
a new adventure. I'll put that in the one winner, I think.
Yeah, and about the survey, have you ever thought of, or are you currently doing, post purchase surveys through No Commerce or some other tool out there?
We don't currently do a post consumer survey.
That would be a great. I mean, of course, this is not for everyone, but if you are trying to get information from customers, uh, you know, uh, in more, let's say, how do you say, like, I don't know if the word is current, but as fast as possible and not wait until the end of the year, I think it would be a great addition because it's embedded in the at least this one in the thank you page, and it's optional, of course, and you can ask all kind of questions, not only for attribution purposes, but you can ask questions to really understand more things about them. Of course, it wouldn't make sense for you to ask for 1,000 questions, but at least 3 or 5 questions is the average that I see, at least. So I think it would be good to consider in case you haven't done that.
Yeah, the place that we really tap into this is when we launch, like for example, we launched jeans last year, and we really focus on those kind of early adopters, and then tapping into them for surveys around those new product offerings, and so focusing on them.
Amazing, great. And I had one more question, yes, about the customer acquisition strategies. For I've been like sounding like a broken record lately about a few topics that I love, and I'm passionate about. And one of them is the fact that everyone is chasing the shiny objects, and of course, it happens to all of us. And we hear brands with a great success in TikTok shops, some others with some other platform, but we have found, at least here on the pod and with the clients we work with, that the number one platform for most DTC brands, at least 7, 8 figure DTC brands, is still Meta. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, Meta is definitely where we spend the most and get the most ROAS. So I think that one of the platforms that we've been playing with and we were getting a really great return for a while was Pinterest for about a year, which was kind of like, hey, we could throw a few $1,000s onto Pinterest and like it's not like a big risk or whatever, and we're seeing these crazy returns. And then just recently actually there was like a little tweak and it was like, hey, wait a second, like this was consistent for like 12 months, what just happened? But I think that there's definitely a little bit of play in those kind of outliers, but you're not going to get the same kind of uh same kind of return that you're going to get on Meta or Google.
Yes, not for now, at least.
No, no.
So one of the last questions I have for you is, what's next for your company? What do you have planned? What do
Yeah,
you have in mind that you can tell us about?
we actually have two exciting new product launches. So one of the things that we really took a step back last year, the year before, we had kind of said, all right, like we have this suiting offering. We feel like kind of a more casual offering would be a good, way to push, and the experiment was not correct. Our hypothesis was wrong. People definitely want to see more formal wear, right? And the only way sometimes that you can do these things, right, is to by throwing an experiment, right? And making sure that we kind of look at it as like an 80-20 split, right? Looking at like 80% of our of the stuff that we're producing is really kind of tried and true, and that 20% is where we kind of sit in the wiggle room to say, okay, is this product going to be a success, a failure? Is this the right colorway? Is it the right, whatever? So that we know that we're not going to like derail the entire business by trying a new product. But we've got two new really strong offerings that I'm super excited about. One is tuxedos, and one is an everyday suit, which is our scout suit. That is going to launch shortly, more of a kind of active city goer, that person that's biking to work and needs to kind of be able to push those pedals and get to the meeting on time.
Amazing. That's great to hear. So before we go, I have what I call the gratitude question, which is, can you like think of a person that you are grateful for having in your life, or a mentor that has helped in your career, former boss, someone you follow or you admire that you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I love this question. So one of the people that has really been instrumental in my success as both a leader and someone in the fashion world, her name is Tara St. James. She is someone that was a mentor very early on in an accelerator program that we were in that was focused on businesses, and the kind of central focus was around sustainability. And so one, we were pre-launch at the time, so it was a really great way for us to push ourselves from a sustainability perspective to ask really important questions of like, okay, it's a lot easier to like change your supply chain when you don't have a supply chain when versus when it's already established, right? So that, but also as how I show up for our team and really as a thought leader in that space.
Amazing. So this will be in the show notes. Thank you for mentioning them, and everything that she said will be in the show notes as well, in the DDCinsider.com. When you click on the episode, unless you are already there, you will see everything that she mentioned, everything we discussed, including this person's name. So Kelly, I had a lot of fun. I wanted to thank you again for being here in the show. And before you go, please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So www.kirrinfinch.com. That's KIRRINFINCH.com.
Amazing. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Take care.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.